What up, my people? After watching this video, you'll be able to graph a square root function. Let's get it. Alright, let's start with some vocabulary. So we have the square root of a exists where a is greater than 0. So basically your radical, that value can never be a negative number. And if it is a negative number, we have a term for that, it's an imaginary number. The first point is where under the radical equals 0. All right, so for our first example, we have graph a square root function, f of x is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 4 square rooted, and plot 4 points on the graph of the function, the leftmost point, and 3 additional points. So we are trying to figure out what's the value of x that would make this a perfect square. So we know that, for example, 1 squared is equal to 1, 2 squared is equal to 4, 3 squared is equal to 9. And when we take the square root of 9, we'll get 3, the square root of 4 will get 2, and the square root of 1 will get 1. So we're basically looking at the radical, and we're trying to make it equal to something that will give us a perfect square. So that way we can simplify this and not have to deal with the nonsense. So for our first one, we have, let's plug in x is equal to negative 4. The reason why is because negative 4 plus 4 would give us a 0. So we have negative 1/2 of the square root of negative 4 plus 4. That's the same thing as negative 1/2 of 0, which is equal to 0. So when x is equal to negative 4, my y value is going to be equal to 0. If I plug in a negative 3 for x, I have negative 1/2 of negative 3 plus 4, square rooted. Negative 3 plus 4 is square root of 1. So we have 1/2 of the square root of 1, which is the same thing as 1/2 times 1, which is equal to just negative 1/2. So when x is equal to negative 3, my y value is going to be negative 1/2. If I plug in 0, I have negative 1/2 of the square root of 0 plus 4. The square root of 0 plus 4 is the square root of 4. So we have negative 1/2 of the square root of 4. That's going to be negative 1/2 times 2. That can cancel, and that leaves me with just a negative 1. So when x is equal to 0, my y is equal to negative 1. And if I have 5, I have negative 1/2 of 5 plus 4. 5 plus 4 is equal to 9. So we have negative 1/2 the square root of 9. The square root of 9 is 3, so we have negative 1/2 times 3 over 1, which is the same thing as negative 3 over 2. So when x is equal to 5, my y value is negative 3 over 2. All right, so we have 4 points right here, so that means we can now graph this. Let's start with the last one first. We have 5 and negative 3 over 2. That's going to be negative 1/2. So at x is equal to 5, I'll go down to negative 1/2, which is approximately right here. And I put a dot. At x is equal to 0, my y value is negative 1. So x equals 0, my y value is negative 1. Put a dot. When x is negative 3, I'm at negative 1/2. And at x is equal to negative 4, my y value is going to be 0. And then I just combine the dots. And that's it. All right, so for example number 2, we have f of x is equal to the square root of 1/2 x plus 6. The values that we're going to be selecting for x are going to make this entire expression on the right-hand side of the equation equal to a perfect square. So it means that when I square root it, I'll get a number or a whole number. So our first number is going to be negative 12. So I have 1/2 of negative 12 plus 6 square rooted. That's the same thing as negative 6 plus 6 square rooted, which is the same thing as the square root of 0, which is just 0. So when x is equal to negative 12, my y value is going to be equal to 0. I'm going to pick negative 10 for this time. So that's going to be 1/2 of negative 10 plus 6 square rooted. Negative 10 divided by 2 is going to be negative 5. So I have negative 5 plus 6 square rooted. That's going to be the square root of 1, which is just 1. So when x is equal to negative 10, my y value is going to be 1. I have x is equal to negative 4. So if I have 1/2 of negative 4 plus 6, all of that square rooted. Negative 4 divided by 2 is going to be negative 2. So I have negative 2 plus 6 square rooted. That's the same thing as the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is just 2. So when x is going to be negative 4, my y value is 2. And if I choose x to be equal to 6, I'm going to have 1/2 of 6 plus 6. All of that square rooted. Half of 6 is going to be equal to 3 plus 6 square rooted. 3 plus 6 is equal to 9. The square root of 9 is equal to 3. So when x is equal to 6, my y value is equal to 3. So now I've found my 4 points, so now I can plot them. So when x is equal to 6, my y value is going to be 3. When x is equal to negative 4, I'll be at positive 2. When x is equal to negative 10, I will be at 1. And when x is equal to negative 12, I'll be at 0. And now we just connect the dots. And that's it. All right, we're at that point. Here's a problem for you to try. Go ahead and pause the video to take a screenshot. There will be a link to the solution in the description. Please like if you understood the tutorial, share and subscribe for more tutorials. Thanks for taking the time to invest in yourself, making a weakness a strength. Ashe.